tasks. So the DPO has to learn or has to have the skill to lead without formal authority, because nobody says to the DPCs, this is your new boss. But the DPO has to understand himself or herself as a leader to be able to lead this group, which can also be in companies, in group companies, a large group, it can be up to 100 people. So my secret, and as I said, as you know from the title, the key here is, and this is my claim and statement, that it's knowledge transfer, which is the key to leadership, to empathic, ecological leadership. Why? Because knowledge transfer is kind of an act of giving. It also forms a relationship to your team, to the DPCs, and it makes the DPCs understand why they're actually working for data protection and why it's important for the whole company and actually also for every individual. And I base this claim, the statement, on the concept of Simon Sinek. He is a quite famous business coach, leader, thought leader. You can Google him. And he has the very famous start with why principle. And he says when people understand the meaning and have the knowledge why they're doing something, they will also feel motivated to do it with this. And just to remind you, what have we done so far in part one? Part one was about building the network of DPCs. This is step one. This is the base. And I explained in part one why our data protection coordinators are even necessary. I explained to you and gave to you the 5 key arguments that after it, you know, there's no other way than leading data protection without the DPCs. You must have the DPCs. There's no way out. So it has to be a self-understanding. Then I showed to you maybe we need other stakeholders. We have the DPO, we have the DPC, but we have to involve another level. It's the supervisors of the DPCs. I call them the data protection managers, the DPMs, because they have to choose the right DPC out of their department. They have to also be their supervisor in the manner of following up if the DPC is fulfilling his or her tasks, because it's not the task of the DPO to run after the DPCs that they fulfill their task. It's in the interest of the company, it's in the interest of the teams themselves, that they have the full ROPA, that they're aware of their service providers, that they're aware of their processes. So it's the tasks of the DPMs. Then I also have shown to you how to set standards. You don't take anyone as a DPC, you don't take any beginners, you don't take no one who's not engaged and motivated. You want someone who's smart, who is engaged, and who is also multitasking. So this is also something you learned in part one. You're allowed to set standards, who you want in your team. And then I was showing you also how the nomination process should look like of the DPCs. So the DPMs shouldn't tell the DPC you're gonna do it. It has to be an appreciative process. The DPM as a supervisor must be aware of what the DPC is doing. He must sell them the role as something very attractive and also integrate it in one-on-ones to show gratitude and be appreciative about this new role. And then in part one, this is what I like to do, always to give you something like a live demo. You can directly take over for your doings in your companies. I showed to you a kick-off meeting for DPCs, how it can look like as soon as you build your group, how you can in half an hour, like a small kick-off meeting, just to introduce the role to them, tell them what you're going to do, like get to know before the actual big educational program will be starting. So in part one, after part one, you build the data protection coordinators group. This is your result. In part two, it was about how to establish an internal data protection academy and provide a targeted training for DPCs. Yeah, something that is specific according to their needs. So I taught you how you start. You start with the vision. At the moment, you just have the idea and already more or less a concrete vision. You start calling things by their name. You start talking about the DPC Academy, even if there is nothing so far but your plan, but you announce you will have one. And as soon as you announce something, it will be very likely that you also follow it through. And the DPC group gets an identity. It's not a wild group anymore. It will be an institution within a company, and you're going to become an intrapreneur within the company. Then, for identity building, it was very important to communicate the common goals. I introduced to you the common goals you have with the DPCs. It's also part of the kickoff workshop, by the way, we had from part one. And then I showed to you how you can create content, how you create a targeted educational program for DPCs. And it has 2 models. It has basic training and it has specific trainings. Basic trainings, GDPR in general, and then a specific training for every DPMS project, DPIA, ROPA, Service Provider Management, Intercompany. And I also gave you concrete chapters for the basic training. And I also introduced to you that it's your job to think about for every specific training, for every specific project, how you can involve the DPCs. And it's possible to involve the DPCs everywhere, not only in the ROPA creation and not only in the Service Provider Management, but in even in awareness trainings, even in creation of privacy policies, everywhere we think it's probably too complicated for them. Now it's possible. And this is actually what you want to do. You want to create little mini-me's who will really support you in the daily business. And this is what you will do in the specific trainings. And it's a complete process description. And the final of part two, I introduced to you the annual DPC guide. Yeah, I was showing to you that it's actually it's not a one-day task. This whole program, it's something you do the whole year. I was showing to you it from a project management perspective. Yeah, when you start, like let's say you start 2026, you start in January. What you do in January, the planning. When you do the workshop with the DPMs, when you do the kickoff with the DPCs, when you do the basic training, and then you do every month a specific training, and every year you have a topic, and also basically it's your follow-up plan, and I call it the annual DPC guide. So after part two, and we are now after part two, you have a DPC Academy, it has been established, and all DPCs have been trained by now, and they know their tasks. And now we go into part three, and this is our agenda for today, and I will show you how to create a motivational culture for DPCs. And this is basically 3 elements, how you can create it, and we will close it with a live demo of a gratitude event for DPCs. You can take over, for instance, if you work with them 1 year, after the year, you could take it over or just get inspiration from it. So basically the value out of it, for you as a DPO, if you are a DPO or a data protection lead manager within the company, this webinar series is meant to help you come from the reacting, especially if you have a consulting past, to come from reacting to shaping, to creating. But you can do it also as a consultant, like to learn how to be proactive. That's actually what an internal wishes for, but you have like just a dependency on the budget. But this series should help you to become strategic, creative, and visible, which I think is very important for every data protection lead, that you are not running after the people, but the people come with the topics to you. You build your team and you have your own internal network. You're not alone and you have basically a large team. You receive an annual project that provides structure and has an impact, so no bore out. This is also something within a company, if you have still to learn how to be proactive and how to find work. This is a 1-year program, which is like creates you 70% of the GDPR doings, because DPMS is 70%, and then the rest you have authority cases and spontaneous consultations. So data protection will be more associated with you, and therefore it's more fun. You have more relationships, and it becomes more effective. And you also strengthen stakeholder awareness, which is very important within the company, that the leadership management is also in your bag, and that because data protection functions top down, the mindset has to be the right one from top down. CEO has to understand it's important, supervisors, leadership management has to understand important, and then the DPCs understand that it's important, and then the employees will understand that it's important. So it's basically you gain more fun, more visibility, and more easiness in your job. And for the company, data protection is more broadly anchored. No more one-man shows. You have less risk because you have more eyes, more hands, and also shared responsibility. You have more motivation, you have more ownership, and DPMS becomes alive, structured, and especially you become independent of tools. It doesn't matter which tool you have, because you have activated the manpower, and this is like the most important, and the tool will be just a tool. And you create culture, compliance, and especially when you're on vacation or when you're not there, you have also a calm feeling that the system is running and the system is working. So this is basically what you should have taken out of the whole webinar series.